Do good, Maverick here. Welcome to podcast episode number 131. A lot of people are more loyal to their favorite sports team than to their own future. You know, it's often the case. Kind of crazy. During the Roman Empire times, there was this guy called Juvenal that said that give them bread and circuses and they will never revolt. Seems like the same strategy is in full action these days as well. When it comes to a lot of sports stuff, like football and that kind of stuff, soccer, where people are going off the rails in excitement about a bunch of men running on a field trying to kick a ball into a net. It can become kind of crazy. I'm not saying everyone that are into sports, watching sports, are crazy. I'm saying the concept can be kind of crazy. You know, when people are watching football or soccer and their team loses and they go crazy like hooligans in the street, fighting like gangs, that's almost like insanity in full action. And it doesn't have to go that far in order to be kind of crazy, you know. And you know, if you talk about things like this, that a lot of sports is a kind of distraction. Yeah, a lot of people might call you a conspiracy theorist, but if there is an agenda, if there is a carefully orchestrated agenda behind it or not, I think it's still pretty obvious. So maybe there's not some kind of elite of super powerful people that orchestrated and conspired together to create sports as a big distraction. Yeah, maybe not. But does it really make any difference when it comes to the impact it makes for a lot of people? Imagine all the time many people spend on memorizing statistics for soccer or baseball or whatever. And what difference does it make? It reminds me of what Jim Rohn used to say. He said something like that a lot of people fail in life because they major in minor things. And if you spend hours every day fanboying over some kind of sports team and memorizing statistics, yeah, chances are maybe you are majoring in minor things. Like James Smith, the real estate expert slash motivational speaker, like he says, get in the game of life. Why should you stand as a spectator on the sidelines looking at a bunch of grown men running after a ball when you can get in the game of life yourself and do more meaningful, productive, fulfilling, important things? You know, being a sports fan doesn't have to be a bad thing, but you know, the thing is, a lot of people are actually more loyal to their favorite sports team than they are to their own future. It's like they pay more attention to it. Some people are even planning. Some people are even doing more planning to attend football matches or soccer matches live, going on trips to follow their sports team as a fan. They're making more plans around that kind of stuff than they are making plans of what they're planning to do when it comes to things and goals in their own life, you know. Anyway, maybe there's time to get off the sidelines and get in the game of life, you know, as James Smith says. By the way, for those of you that are watching the video of this episode, look at that view. Get in the game of life, get off the sidelines, be one of the men in the arena. You know, a lot of people kind of just follows the blueprint or roadmap that the matrix or the system or the rat race or society, the school system, whatever you want to call it, that they have laid out. And we are kind of funneled into it, almost like, in some ways, almost like a cult. These days, a lot of people begin in kindergarten from they're like 9 months old. They're almost being raised by the government instead of their parents. Maybe I'm stretching things now, or maybe not, because it is kind of crazy that the career for people is so important that they hand their kids over to a bunch of strangers employed by the government to raise their kids while they go to work. Because after all this feminism and modern society stuff, both the man and woman, both the husband and wife, is kind of expected to work full time, even just a few months after giving birth. And then, you know, kids from the age of like 9 months spend hours every day. I guess that varies from country to country, but it is oftentimes like 10, between 10 to 15 hours a day in kindergarten from they're like 9 months old during weekdays. And then when they are 6 years old, about 6 years old, they start the school system. And then it's like 10 years. They say it's about education, but I've said it for many years. It's more about indoctrination than education. It's like they want to indoctrinate people when it comes to how to behave, how to think, how to act, what to do. And from that early age, you know, through primary school, the school system, it's like there is some kind of blueprint as to what people should do. And one of the main ones is that you should spend years educating yourself in order to get a so-called safe, secure job with good benefits. Is it really that safe and secure? Say that to all the people that were pressured towards taking the clap jab during 2021 to 2024. A lot of people said no, and even those that claim they had no choice, they had a choice, but the choice was very brutal. It was like take this experimental injection or get fired. And for a lot of people, under extreme pressures, and also propaganda and brainwashing from the news, and a lot of lies being spread, a lot of people ended up taking it. But my point is, safe and secure job. How safe and secure was it really? How safe and secure was it really? My point is, when it comes to being employed in a job, we are not living in the 1950s anymore. It might have used to work pretty good during the 50s, 60s, 70s to just be employed in a job and have that as your one and only source of income. But these days, things have changed a lot. One man could get out of primary school, get a job at age 15 to 18, something like that. You could get a job with one company and work for that company his entire career. And he could have a house, a car, a wife, and 5 kids. A stay-at-home wife with five kids, during the 60s. But these days, it's like both parents have to be working full time, and still they are struggling financially. So when it comes to that blueprint or that roadmap that society is indoctrinating people into following, does it work that good? Maybe for some people, but to me it looks like for the vast majority of people it's not really working that good, at least not as good as it used to be. And just to be clear, I have nothing against, it's not that I have something against jobs, being employed. That doesn't have to be a bad thing. But when it comes to the roadmap, so to speak, of getting a good education, which is not really good, and then have your job as an employee as your one and only source of income, I don't think that's ideal. These days, I think most people should have multiple streams of income. And here I am saying it without even having achieved it myself. So my point, I'm not looking down on anyone that are not doing it. That's not my point. I'm kind of just pointing out that there are things going on that maybe they used to work good, but not working as good these days. And although a lot of this can sound really negative, my point is not to be negative about it. Because if you look at what's normal, yeah, maybe a lot of it is negative compared to the 1950s and 1960s. But there's also a lot of opportunities these days that didn't exist at all in the 1950s. We have things like the internet, AI, social media, things like that. So there really is a lot of opportunities as well. And for a lot of these opportunities, you don't have to quit your job and go for something else. Oftentimes you can start things kind of like a side hustle, as they call it, and then you can gradually grow it. And then later on, maybe you decide to quit your job and focus on it full time. Maybe you decide to do both. There's a lot of ways to go about it, And when it comes to side hustles and opportunities for building online businesses, stuff like that, there's a lot of opportunities out there. But one of them that I find really fascinating is paid communities and email marketing, because it seems like a lot of people are able to use those business models to build a business, and while they're running that business also have a lot of time freedom, And when it comes to that option of paid communities these days, I'm focusing a lot on interviewing real life success stories of people that are making at least $10,000 in profit per month through a paid community. At the time of this recording, yesterday night, like a few hours ago. I interviewed one lady that is running a paid community. She was also doing other things online, some online courses and coaching and stuff. But when it comes to her paid community, I asked her, how long does it take you per week to manage and run your paid community? And she said it took about 16 hours in her case. Isn't that fascinating? You know, the dream of freedom is possible. Again, I'm not an expert, just to make that perfectly clear. But I am interviewing a bunch of real-life success stories. So I can talk about the real-life success stories, you know. And it's kind of liberating, inspiring, motivating to know that the dream of freedom is possible. Now, myself, I'm not dreaming about only working 16 hours per week all the time. But just the thought of something like that being possible is really exciting. Because even almost no matter how much you want to work hard and a lot, there are periods in life where for a lot of people it will not be possible because things happen, you know. And then to have something like a paid community where you could make semi-passive income, as I call it, roughly defined as something that takes like 2 to 15 hours per week. That could in many cases be a great solution, you know. And if you find yourself trapped in the matrix of the 9 to 5 rat race, maybe you don't have to wait until you're 67 and retire and then you can escape. Maybe you could start a side hustle and build it up to such a solid income that you could escape the rat race and do a lot of the things you want to do now or in a few months from now, instead of waiting several decades until you are like 67, you know. Anyway, if you want to learn from a bunch of those real-life success stories that I've interviewed, as well as connect with a bunch of other people that are in the process of building their own paid community, go to communitycashcows.com. All right, take care and God bless.